So I got some feedback from some of you who have recently taken your Accuplacer exams and your TSI exams, and you mentioned that there has been a lot of graphing on those tests. So this is going to be an overview for people who feel that they don't really know much about graphing. They don't feel familiar with it. So we're going to just start from scratch. We're going to cover every possible thing in this video. Just take it one step at a time, and hopefully once you're done with this video, you'll feel more prepared to tackle those big graphing problems on your next Accuplacer exam or your TSI test, or even if you're just taking college algebra. Okay, so first we're just going to start with the equation for a line. Y is equal to mx plus b. And we're going to talk about what this means. So this is the basic equation for a line. It's called slope-intercept form. And it's really simple. The reason why it's called that is because based on this formula here, you can find the slope and you can find the y-intercept. So let's first talk about the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is whatever value is in this place of the b. So if you had y is equal to mx plus 6, the y-intercept would be 6. Okay, what about this? Y is equal to mx plus 3. If I were to ask you, well, what is the y-intercept? You would say the y-intercept is 3. But what does that mean in terms of a graph? Well, if you have a graph, and I'm just going to go ahead and make an axis, and just please, I'm trying not to rush, but at the same time, I know that watching a video very slowed down can be a bit much. So if I draw quickly and my lines aren't straight, please forgive me. So this is the x-axis, and this is the y-axis. The y-axis goes up and down, the x-axis goes across. So if I were to have a line, say this is my line, wherever that blue line crosses over the y-axis, that is called the y-intercept. So if I had an equation that said y is equal to mx plus 2, the y-intercept would be 2, because we know that that's where you find the y-intercept when you're looking at an equation. What that means in terms of this line is that at 1, 2, this point right here is where these two lines, this line and this line, cross over. That is my y-intercept. So let's look at that again. So I have an x-axis and a y-axis, and I'm just drawing them really quickly. This is the x-axis going across. This is y-axis going up and down. Say I have an equation that says y is equal to 2x plus 3. The y-intercept is the number 3 because that's where you find the y-intercept in the equation. And then what that means in terms of a graph is that that is the point where my line will cross over this y-axis. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find 3. 1, 2, 3. This is the point where my line has to go through. So my line can look like this. And that is at number 3. This is where the 2 points meet. The y-axis and my line, it meets at the number 3. So that's what the y-intercept means. Okay, so now let's go back to our original equation. Y is equal to mx plus b. The b stands for the y-intercept. The m stands for a slope. Okay, so first we're just going to talk about if I were to put numbers in this equation, what would the slope be? So y is equal to 2x plus 4. So if I were to say, look at this equation and tell me what the slope is, the slope would be 2. So you can always find the slope. It's whatever number or value is before the x. So the slope is 2 because it's the number before the x. Something that the mistake that a lot of students make is they'll say that their slope is 2x. That is wrong. It is only the number that is before the x. So let me show you another equation. Y is equal to 1/2 x plus 2. So if I were to ask you, what is the slope? What would you say? If you say the slope is 1/2, you're correct, because that is the number before the x. So the slope would be 1 over 2. Okay, so now we know how to identify the slope in an equation. So now let's talk about what exactly slope means. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw an x and a y axis again. So here's an x and a y axis. And we're going to draw my line. So I'm going to draw my line. I'm going to try to be careful because I want it to be following an actual slope. So, okay, here's my line. My line is going in an upwards direction. So if I start on the left side and go towards the right, my slope is going in an upwards direction. That means I have a positive slope. So that means whatever number is y equals mx plus b, this number here should also be a positive value. So y equals 2x plus 4. The slope is 2. That 2 is a positive 2, so that means my line is going up. If it was y equals negative 2x plus 4, the slope would be negative 2. When the slope is negative, then the line goes down. So instead of the line going up like this, the line will actually be going down like that. So this is a positive slope, if you're taking notes. This is a negative slope. The way you know you have a positive slope is because you'll have a positive number where the slope is. And if you have a negative slope, that means you have a negative number where the slope is. Okay, so how can I look at a line? So say for example, I have this line. How can I look at this line and know whether or not it's positive or a negative slope? And I'm going to show you my little trick. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a line. And you're like, well, Miss Amber, how do I know for sure that that line is either positive or negative? The thing that I like to teach is it's a little bit silly, but it works for me. It can help you. I like to draw a little person on the left side of the line. So this is the left side of the line. This is the right side of the line. On the left side of the line, I like to draw a little person. And I like to ask myself, if this person follows the line in the direction that it's heading, will they be going upstairs? If they're going upstairs, that means the line is a positive line. That means it has a positive slope. So again, draw your little person on the left side. If the person is going upstairs when they follow the line, then that means it's a positive line. Okay, well, how to tell if it's a negative line? Well, you do the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw another line. This is x and the y axis. And now I'm going to draw a negative line. Okay? Remember, you still start on the left side. This is the left side of the line. This is the right side of the line. So on the left side of the line, I want you to draw, this is the left side again, and this is the right side. On the left side of the line, I want you to draw your person. Okay? Now you need to ask yourself, is this person going upstairs? No, he's not. Is he going down a hill? Yes, he's going down a hill. So if you draw your person on the left side and they're going down a hill, then that means you have a negative slope. If you draw your person on the left side and they're going up the staircase when they follow the line, that means you have a positive slope. Again, what does that mean in terms of an equation? If I have y equals negative 4x plus 5, I know that my line has to be going down, meaning it starts positive and then it starts going down because it's a negative slope. And my person will end up going down a hill. If I had y is equal to positive 4x plus 5, my slope is positive, so my line would be going upwards. Again, if I draw my person on the left side and they end up taking the staircase, then that means it's a positive line. So we just learned a lot. We just learned about slopes. And within that idea of slope, we learned, okay, how to identify where the slope is in an equation. The slope is the number before the x. Then we also understood what a positive slope looks like, what a negative slope looks like, and how to determine if you have a line, whether you're going up the staircase and you have a positive line, or if you're going down a hill and you have a negative line. So we are learning a lot in this lesson. I hope you're keeping up. If you have to pause it and come back, pause it, but make sure you do come back because, again, I'm still going to be teaching you guys more and more. Not only did we go over slope, but then we also went over y-intercepts. But I want us to take it a little bit further. So I want to talk more about slope. So again, we're going to go back to an equation. Y is equal to 2x plus 2. Let's talk about slope. Again, the slope would be the number before the x. So in this case, the slope is 2. The next thing I like to do is I always like to write slope as a fraction, and you're going to see why. So first, let me teach you how to write the slope as a fraction. In this case, since it's 2, you can write 2 as a fraction by doing 2 over 1. If you need to understand why that is, if you have any whole number, say you have 4, 10, 5, -2, -6, and you need to make them into a fraction, you can always write any whole number over 1, and it's the same exact value, but now it's written as a fraction. So again, we're going to go back to the equation. Y is equal to 2x plus 2. 2 is the slope. The slope is 2. But I encourage you to now write it as a fraction. So if you're taking notes, write it as a fraction. And I'm going to show you why this is super helpful. So a lot of people have heard that slope is equal to rise over run. And that's a very popular saying. People can regurgitate that back. If I said, what does slope stand for? Or what does slope mean? People will say rise over run. Or you'll hear that in your math class and the teacher says, oh, remember, slope is rise over run. But then people are like, what in the world does that even mean? I'm going to show you. Even though rise over run is technically the term that I guess we've all agreed upon when it comes to slope, I like to say it a little bit differently for people to actually understand what that means. This is saying you're either going up or down a number of units. So rise means you're either going up or down a certain amount. Run means you're going to the right a certain amount. So if I have the slope 2, that's the same as saying I have 2 over 1 because it's now written as a fraction. I haven't changed anything. I just made it into a fraction. I made it into a fraction so I can understand the rise over the run. What does that mean? It means you're either going to go up or you're going to go down the number that's on top. You go up if it's a positive number, you go down if it's a negative number. So this 2 is a positive 2, so we're going up 2. Now you run whatever's on the bottom. So you run, but specifically you run to the right. So you're going to go to the right 1 time. So if you want to follow the slope of 2, that's the same as saying the slope of 2 over 1. That means you go up 2 and to the right 1 every time you're trying to find a new point. Let's see how this works out for us. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a graph. And for the sake of this, I'm going to say we're just starting at the center. So again, 2 over 1 means you're going up 2 to the right 1. So if I start here, that means in order to make my next point, I have to go up 2, 1, 2, and then I go to the right 1, and I'm able to make my point. And then I follow it again. I go up 2, 1, 2, to the right 1, and I'm able to make my point. I go up 2 to the right 1, and I'm able to make my point. I'm going to go ahead and just erase this because that's just me just following the directions. That's not going to be part of my line. And now that I have a few points, I can connect those points. And I now made a line that has a slope of 2 or a slope of 2 over 1, which is the same thing. Let's do that again. So I'm going to start again from scratch. Y is equal to 4x plus 5. I'm going to ask you, we're only focusing on this bit here. For now, I'm going to show you how we could put it all together later, but let's just only focus on what the slope means. The slope is the number that's found before the x. So if you were asked, what is the slope? If you said 4, you are correct because that is the number found before the x. But I encourage you to always write it as a fraction, 4 over 1. Now, what does 4 over 1 mean? Rise over run may come to your brain. Good, write that down. Rise over run. What does that mean? That means if the number is positive, you go up 4, or if the number is negative, you go down 4. So because the top number is telling you how much to rise, and the top number is positive 4, we're going to go up 4. So that is what we're going to do on the top. On the bottom number tells us how much we're going to run. But if you remember, you only run to the right. So we're going to go to the right 1. So this is the directions, up 4 to the right 1. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw a graph with the slope of 4 just for you to see how this works. And we're just going to, for the sake of this graph, just for us to see what slope does, we're going to start at the center, and now we're going to make a next point. So the directions tell us, according to our slope of 4, you go up 4 to the right 1. So we're going to go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and go to the right 1, and we're going to make our point. Then we're going to follow it again, up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to go to the right 1, and we're going to make our point. Now that we have about 3 points, I'm just going to erase this just so that you can see that this is not part of the graph. It was just me trying to follow the directions. Now that we have 3 points on our graph, I can connect it. And this is our new line right here. So slope is rise over run. What that means is you're either going up a certain amount or down a certain amount. The bottom number tells us we're going to the right, how many, and then you just follow it like you're following the GPS. You go up 4 to the right 1, up 4 to the right 1. Let's talk about a negative slope, and then let's go ahead and put this entire thing together so that you can start from an equation, figure out what the y-intercept is, what the slope is, and put together a graph. But let's just look at a negative slope really fast just so that you can say, oh, Miss Amber, you didn't talk about a negative slope. If I have a slope of negative 3, again, it would say y is equal to negative 3x plus 4. If I said, what is the slope? You would tell me it's a negative 3. Because it's a negative number, I already know that my line is going down because it's going down a hill. So I already kind of know what my line will look like. I'm going to go ahead and write my slope is equal to negative 3. But I like to write it as a fraction, negative 3 over 1. I know that the saying rise over run is a thing, so I'm going to write that down. And then I'm going to write what that means. But because the top is saying negative 3, instead of going up 3, we're going down 3. So before, when it was positive, if it was positive 3, on the top we would say up 3. Because remember, on the top, it's either up or down. Up if it's a positive number on the top, down if it's a negative number on the top. So because this is a negative number, we're going down 3. And then on the bottom, it tells us how much we're going to the right. So on the bottom, we're going to go to the right 1. So if I were to go ahead and have a graph again, and if I were to start in the middle, at this middle point, I would go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and to the right 1, and that's where I would make my dot. Again, I would go down 3, 1, 2, 3, to the right 1, and that's where I would make my dot. I would erase these little lines. They're only there for you guys to see the direction that I'm heading in, so that if you're doing it on your piece of paper, you could see what I'm doing. But I'm erasing those red bits because they're not part of the line. And now that I have a few points, I can connect the line and I can have created my line based on my slope. Again, this is what the line was supposed to look like. A person who is starting on the left side and going downhill. If I draw my person on the left side of the line, remember this is the left side, this is the right side. If I draw my person on the left side of the hill, because this is a negative slope, I should be falling down the line, which I am. All right, so we covered slope and y-intercept. Now let's put this entire thing together to see how it works for us. So y is equal to 2x plus 3. Let's identify the parts of this equation. Remember, this is called slope-intercept form. So the 3 is the y-intercept. And if you forgot what the y-intercept does, that's just where on the graph, the line is going to cross the y-axis. So up and down is the y-axis, across is the x-axis. So when I'm drawing my line, I always start at the y-intercept. So in this case, the y-intercept is at 3. So I'm going to find it 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to make my point. This is the y-intercept. It's at the number 3. Okay? So you always start at the y-intercept. Before, we were starting in the center just for you to see how the slope works. We were only looking at slope at this point, but now we're looking at both to be able to put the entire line together. So whereas now, if you have both items, the y-intercept and the slope, and you have an equation, you always start at the y-intercept. In this case, the y-intercept is here, and the y-intercept is 3. So that's why we go to the y line. This is the y line, and we make our point at 3. That is our starting point. So the way that I like to describe it is, pretend like you just got in your car at number 3. The y-intercept is where your starting point is. That's where you start your engine. So pretend the y-intercept is like your house. You start your car at your house. That's where you start. But then the slope is the GPS of how to get to your next location, So let's try to figure out what our GPS is telling us. Well, we have to figure out what the slope is. The slope is a number before the x, so the slope is 2. So on my piece of paper, I'm going to write 2 over 1 because it's better when it's written as a fraction. We remember rise over run. That's what that actually means. Because the 2 is a positive 2, that means we're going to go up 2 because on top, the top number tells you whether you're going up or down and by how many. And then the bottom number tells us how much we're going to run or go to the right. So we're going to go to the right, 1. So the directions or the GPS is telling us in order to get to our next location, you have to go up 2 to the right 1, up 2 to the right 1, up 2 to the right 1. So let's go ahead and get to our next location. We start at the home point at our y-intercept, and we're going to go up 2 to the right 1, and we're going to make our point. We're going to go up 2 to the right 1, and we're going to make our point. We're going to go up 2 to the right 1, and we're going to make our point. Now we're going to go ahead and connect the lines, and officially we have a graph. Okay, you guys, let me know what questions you have for me, but it's very important that we understand how lines work, how graphing works. This was the basics. Please let me know if you'd like a part 2 to this. I may come up with a part 2 so that you're able to understand some more complicated things like how to find the slope if you're not given it, how to find a slope from a graph, those kind of things. If you're interested, please let me know. And as always, happy studying. See you in the next.